This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Well, it's still going strong today, and so is Roman Reigns. He's on the poster of the show in this era 5 years ago. At the prior month's Survivor Series, Roman won the WWE title, only to lose it to Sheamus, cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase. And tonight's main event is Sheamus versus Roman in a TLC match. We've also got Charlotte defending a Divas Championship against Paige. That feels like from a bygone era. We've got Dean Ambrose working with Kevin Owens for the Intercontinental Championship. And believe it or not, the Wyatt family taking on a group of ECW originals in 2015. Let's break down the news and notes as we head into this show. Meltzer would break down the company in 2015 and say, here's who had the most main events that drew more than 10,000 fans. I'm going to run through that again. Of all the times that WWE had more than 10,000 fans in attendance, who was working on top? Seth Rollins had done it 18 times at this point in 2015. John Cena and Roman Reigns were tied at 12. Dean Ambrose had done it 10 times. I'm sorry, Bray Wyatt had. Dean Ambrose had done it 9 times. Brock Lesnar had done it 5. Are you surprised when you look back? I mean, 2015 really, I guess, kind of was the year of Seth Rollins. But when I think about the top draw for the company, I just almost universally assume it'll be John Cena. And yes, Cena's tied with Reigns, but Seth is outdoing it here. What do you make of that in hindsight?
Well, you're starting to feel a changing of the guard, number one, around this time. But that's such a, whoever came up with that list, really doesn't have a firm grasp on what we do, because no one person is going to be responsible for drawing a house, and hasn't for some time.
Now, that used to not be the case. I mean, when Hulk Hogan was on the card, that would do it. But you're saying in 2015, that's no longer a valid metric.
You better have, if you got 8 matches on a card, you better have 5 that matter.
Yeah.
People are just, they're tight with a buck these days, and they got to spend their money, pick and choose where they spend their money. And one person hasn't drawn a house in a long, long time. You got to have several things that the audience is, interested in. And it's okay to have fun lists like that and give people credit. But the fact of the matter is, you could go and dissect all those matches and who was on top. And there was probably a match or two on the card that might've been more important and more responsible for drawing the house than the one that was sitting in the main event. I'd almost bet on it.
As far as longevity, I do want to mention that John Cena, this will be his 10th year, according to the Wrestling Observer, drawing more than 10,000 fans in main events. He's going to move ahead of Gene Kiniski, The Sheik, Ray Stevens, and even Triple H, who were all top 10 in 9 different years. That's pretty remarkable when you think about, as far as being a top 10 drawing act 10 years in a row, that Cena passes names like The Sheik and Ray Stevens and Triple H. I don't think history will remember John Cena the way the modern era does. For whatever reason, I think that the current wrestling fan base sees John Cena much differently than maybe history will. He's had a pretty incredible run, especially with regards to not only the money he drew, but the longevity. And I don't know that gets talked about enough. You were with him real close for most of his entire run. I'm sure you agree with that.
Yeah. And I think he does get a lot of the credit. It pisses a lot of people off to admit it. A lot of them are there to see John and to see his opponent, and God knows the kids are there. One thing that is crystal clear in an era that, this is an adult male sport, the kids will still come out to see somebody that is their hero. And John is definitely that guy. That's for sure. And it is incredible for 10 years. He could sit atop a company that has that many stars and runs that many shows. It's pretty staggering. 10 years is a hell of a run consecutively, and a couple of things that play into that is John's very dependable. John would never missed a match, never missed a house show. He's durable. He never got hurt very often. So, if you bought a ticket to see John, you didn't get there and see, well, he was injured at Raw. We have, we're going to make a proper change to the card. You didn't have any of that. And that means a lot too, to the fans.
I do want to mention, I've always thought it was weird, and I want to make a different kind of analogy here when we're talking about John, maybe not getting the respect he deserves historically. Once upon a time, Eric Bischoff gave a speech in a WCW locker room, and I think you were present, where he basically said, no one in here has drawn a dime with the exception of not Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, and Macho Man Randy Savage. And of course, Ric Flair's sitting right there. And I think everyone understood, boy, that is just outright offensive to Ric Flair. Fast forward, and for the last several years, people have said, oh, the company will never have another Rock or Austin or Hulk Hogan. They're just not coming down the pike. They'll never have that big of a star. Meanwhile, John Cena's sitting right in the room. Now, I realize Vince McMahon never gave such a speech, but it does feel like something we've heard a lot, that, oh, we'll never get another Rock. We'll never get another Austin. What about a John Cena who was there the entire time where the company enjoyed some of its most profitable years? I don't get how that's sort of not discussed more.
Well, I don't know. I know it's a lot more popular to be an Austin fan or a Rock fan than it is to be a Cena fan. Maybe it's where the company was at the time and just what, Hogan did to kickstart a revolution, and what Rock and Austin did to get their company turned around and get them heading on a path to where, the one thing you got to say, and you got to give them credit for, is go back and look at those ratings. They had numbers in the 8s. You realize that?
Yeah.
Back in those days. That's something that when it occurred, and there were other people on the cards. You had DX and all these other guys, Undertaker, Kane, you had all these other stars. But I think if you went back and you gave credit to some of those, Mick Foley, but some of those numbers that were so preposterous, there hasn't been an 8 since then, and there won't be an 8 going forward. There's not that many people watching wrestling. It was one of those rare occasions where things just got together and just the stars came into alignment and it just exploded. I think a lot of that is where a lot of that hype, and deservedly so, belongs.
Let's talk about Jim Dodson. He was the famous head of security. We get questions about him all the time with Jim Ross and Bruce Pritchard's podcast. He passed away here in 2015. He worked with the company from 95 to 2001. So I'm not sure that you ever even would have met him. Did you ever meet Jim Dodson?
And I got a little hint we might be talking about that, and I can't place him. The other Jim that was always head of security is shaved head, real tanned, all business.
Yep.
That Jim.
Yep.
It's like we're like George Foreman's kids. Everybody's named Jim.
I love that.
So it was tough to place him. I don't think I was ever around him, to be honest with you.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.